Hey, welcome everybody. welcome. I know we're just people are starting to trickle in, joining, and hopefully the pump up music made you guys excited about what we're going to do. I'm going to move this over so it doesn't sound like an echo. Cool. Welcome everybody. Do me a favor. If you can, in the chat, if you're in StreamYard, I think YouTube, on Facebook, please put me... Please put in the chat, what is your purchase price budget that you're looking to target for your next purchase? Please put that in their chat. Would love to know. I'm going to try to cater some of the content I go over today based off of some of the answers I get. So the more involved you are, the more helpful I can be based on your situation. I think the more relevant it is to you, the easier and better it is for you to take action. So put it in there. Holy crap. We got a lot of people with 300K. Kenny Culpa was like, man, I was just rocking out to that music. Thank you. Yes, I've got some good pump up music here. Connor Byer said 5 to 900. Depends on the deal and if we wanted to partner with someone to increase buying power. Okay. All right. Interesting. 400, 350 and below, under 200. So Teresa is at under 200,000 and this is purchase price. So is that under 200,000 in purchase price? Would love to know that. Claire, 600, Jody, 400 to 550 or 500, 650, 250 to 350. Okay, cool. All right. Dan said 500. MJ said, so pumped. All right. I'm glad you're pumped. Okay, guys. So once again, okay, we've got over 1 million. We have a couple people with over 1 million, all at 400 to 500. Okay. So we kind of got a bit of a range here, but it seems like a lot of people here are looking around that maybe 500 mark. That's a good average. But some are above it, some are a little bit below it. Teresa John said 300 to 500. Christian Peterson said, I might just take anything, or at this point, I might just take anything, Kenny. So yes, that's a good point. So, okay, let's jump into it. I've got a hard stop right at 2 p.m. Eastern. So I'm going to do this thing for an hour and end it at that time. We can take questions as we go. Feel free to post questions in the chat. I'm happy to make this a little more, conversational, the best that I can. I know it's through chat, so I don't know how much of conversation you can do through chat, but anyway. So for those of you, first off, I have a really interesting question for anyone who is brave enough to answer this. Is this your first time listening to one of my workshops? Let me know in the chat. If this is your first time joining one of my workshops and listening for the first time, let me know. Just say first time or yes, or it's my first time. I don't know. Just say something like that. Let me know in the chat if it's your first time listening to one of my workshops. Okay. No. Jody, yes. Welcome to the show. Jenna Downs, yes. Yep. Elizabeth, yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So we do have some new stuff. Some new folks, second time. All right. That means you're back for trouble again, Dan. So second time here. Awesome. Some other people said no. Oh, Lori, thank you. I'm the bomb. So meaning I'm going to bomb or it was really good. I'm just kidding. Brad, welcome. Brad Montgomery, first time here. Awesome. Great. Well, welcome guys. Welcome those who are new. Welcome back. I appreciate you guys coming back for those of you who listened to these things before. So, let me give, it seemed like it was kind of, I'd say based on the responses, maybe 50-50, which is awesome. So heads up for those of you who haven't done my workshops before, they are very, very educational, but for those of you who don't know me that well, or maybe know some about me or whatever, I'm in this every single day. I look for deals and I are constantly helping our clients. That's what we do, find properties. Okay. So like right now we have I did the math. We did today. We have 23 properties under contract right now. And so, I mean, that's a lot. And so we're constantly looking for deals. We're constantly evaluating, constantly analyzing, which means I'm in it day in and day out, which as a consequence, beneficial for you because I can teach you, but also I might move a little quickly. So the good news is this entire presentation is recorded. It will be on YouTube. You'll also, if you signed up through StreamYard or registered through StreamYard, you'll get an email with the recording as well. So the best thing to do, I would encourage you to do that. If you're trying to take notes, it's okay. You don't have to take notes. Just listen, absorb what you can. It's a full hour of content. Come back to the recording and take the notes, okay? Because I don't want you to miss anything that's really important. And I want you to be able to ask questions when they come up and get the answers you need instead of like, oh, I wish I'd asked that after, you're listening to the recording and trying to take notes. So be prepared for just listen, absorb, ask questions in the moment. Let's have that conversation. Let's see if I can help you, but we're going to dive into a lot of stuff. Okay. So let's get to it. Okay. Here are my secret strategies. Okay. When I say secret, I mean, are they like, do other people know about them? Yeah, absolutely. Is it really secret? No, you can figure this stuff out. But people aren't doing it. So I call it secret because people aren't doing it. I don't know why they're doing it. And one thing that is really important is that when you're looking for deals, you're not just doing it one way. Okay. I personally made this mistake before where I maybe have identified a market I'm interested in investing in, and I'm looking for a specific type of property in that specific market in my specific budget range. Okay. When you start stacking all these like different requirements for a particular property, that you're looking for, it becomes very difficult to find something that is going to cash flow and make sense from an investment standpoint. And so one of the lessons I want you to walk away with is be open to different strategies. And in fact, you should employ at least 2 of the strategies I'm going to share with you. Okay. If not all 3. And I think they're all very easily, that's why I put the 3 here. I do have other strategies I use, but we don't have enough time to go through every single one of them, but these are the main ones that I'm using today to find deals that make stuff work. Okay. So be open and understand that there are multiple ways to find deals, and you should be open to those multiple ways. Okay. What else? Well, let's just dive into them. Okay. So strategy number 1 is on finding and defining market boundaries. We're going to talk about this briefly and share examples on how I define and identify true market boundaries, because I don't think people quite understand this one. And we need to see it live. Number 2, identifying buy boxes. Buy boxes are simply basically what we're trying to target and purchase in the market that we know that does well. This is really, really important. These are the data points that, when people are like, oh, Kenny, you're the data guy. You're right. I am the data guy. So, and what data am I getting? Buy box data, right? And that's what you should be looking for too. You don't need to have, access to a database of millions of records to figure out buy boxes in markets. Okay. And that's what I'm going to show you guys how to identify buy boxes, because once you know what works in the market, you know what to look for. Let me give you a quick example of that. So I have a lot of clients that look in mountain markets. Okay. And let's just like say the no-brainer here. Everybody wants a property with mountain views, especially like long range views. Okay. My clients want it. Everyone looking in that market who's trying to buy wants that. So what happens when a property with long range mountain views comes on the market and for sale? There's usually a bidding war over it. It goes way over asking. There's escalation clauses and all these things. Okay. And usually because of all of that, it rarely becomes a deal because it's then overpriced or overvalued, because everybody goes, oh, views, that's what drives revenue in that market. But the problem with that thinking is, once again, it's very limited. Okay. And we have to understand that once again, going back to what I talked about earlier, there are multiple ways to identify deals, and there's different types of deals in markets. Okay. So for example, in the mountain markets, not every property that is successful has views. There are properties that have no views at all that are incredibly successful and actually make more money than properties with views. So what attributes do they have then? What characteristics, what amenities, what design decor, what is it that makes them successful? And then can you replicate that? Or better yet, can you top that? Okay. So that's really what we're talking about with buy boxes. What are those like secret, we'll call it secret, but unique ways that there are successful properties out there that aren't your traditional, property with view, property on the beach, property waterfront, property downtown, like the typical like cookie cutter, and they're not cookie cutter properties, but you know what I mean? Like it's just obvious that that's like the desirable thing that someone would want in a particular market that you've done very little research on. Okay. That's where 90% of the investors stay. We want to be in the 10% who are looking for the unique stuff. Now, I'm not saying don't buy a property with views or don't buy waterfront. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying those are more competitive. And that's probably why you're on this, is you're having a hard time finding deals that are not competitive, right? Are overpriced. The last one we're going to talk about is credits or concessions and how to leverage that to make a deal better and find opportunities. And so we'll go through a few examples there and end on that high note. So let's dive into it. Okay, so first, you guys got to understand what deals look like, okay? Because I can show you the step, like step 1, go to Zillow. Step 2, put this in your filter. Step 3, go here. Step 4, click here. And you will try to replicate it, but the results you're going to see on your page will be different than what I actually show you, right? Okay, because I can only show you one market or maybe 2 markets on a call like this, and they might not be the markets you're interested in. So the problem is, what I've noticed is that people don't even know what deals, like what they should be looking for to begin with. And it's a vision problem, okay? Most of us lack vision because maybe we don't have experience, or maybe we're just not used to or just seeing types of deals out there that make sense. Because the types of deals I look for fall under this main umbrella of what I call a value add, meaning we take maybe a boring property or a property that has something called a moat, and I'll get to that a little bit later, but something that's unique and sets it apart, and we add particular things to that property to make it a really cool property. Some people call them super properties. I call them wildly profitable properties, right? They cash flow, they make money. This is an extreme example, okay? This is an actual Airbnb listing. This is one of our clients. They dumped in like $350,000. And I'm not saying by any means you have to go out and spend $350,000 just to get a deal. Okay, that's not what we're here to do. And I'm going to show you different examples that are not that much, okay? But the point I want to make, and this is why I'm showing this one, and I'm going to show some other extreme examples, is you have to be willing to invest into your property, okay? One of the biggest mistakes that investors, especially newer investors, make today is they buy properties at the top end of their budget and they have very little to invest into the property after the fact. And that is the wrong way to do it. For example, when you go to a lender and the lender says, hey, Johnny, you're approved, or hey, Jennifer, you're approved for, I'm not picking on anyone here in the list, so I'm just random names. You're approved for $1 million property and you only have $100,000. Okay, by the bank standards, you can afford to buy $1 million property. But for marketing and running a good short-term rental and making money, you can't really afford to buy $1 million property with only $100,000, right? I mean, that's pretty extreme, but you get the point. So there's a delicate balance on what you should buy based on the capital you have on hand. And if you don't have a lot of money to invest, then you're going to have to get creative and probably lower your purchase price budget much lower than you think. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? I would rather buy something at, $200,000 to $300,000 that's going to cash flow 30, 40, even 50K than buy something at $700,000 that only makes me $10,000. I mean, it's just simple math, right? Like, you all should be like, yes, Kenny, we get that. Exactly. So like, stop doing that. And people just think what the bank says that I'm pre-approved for, that's what I should buy. No, it's based on your cash on hand. And I'm going to give you guys a formula that will help you. Okay. But we need to know and understand that the reason why we're going to apply this formula and do the things that I'm telling you is because it all falls under the umbrella of the value add. You have to invest into the property. This is my property in Asheville, North Carolina. It's a 5-bedroom, 4-bath. Okay. this was the before picture. This is the after picture. You see some of the amenities, you see some of the decking and things that we changed and added to the property. Now, let me ask you, does it look like this one? No, it doesn't. Okay. It's not as cool as this one, but it's still this, and it's still a really, really good deal. All right. And it was all on how we purchased the property and the amount of money we spent into it. It wasn't $300,000 or more. Okay. It was closer to 200, but we got that number down by getting what we call seller credits, which I'll talk about at the end of the property. And so, but the reality is we're not buying at the top end of the market. Okay. I call it making money on the buy, meaning that we're not buying in competitive properties that everyone's bidding on because they're super obvious. We're buying properties that this one sat on the market for 50 plus days. Nobody was biting on. And we come in with all of the negotiating power from the buyer's side. I'm going to show you some data on why it's a buyer's market right now and how you can take advantage of it. But coming in and negotiating things to make things look better because we have a vision. We see this and we know we can turn it into this. Okay. So I launched this property this year. We already have $145,000 on the book. This property was $900,000. Okay. We are in May. Okay. Now these are bookings for the whole year, right? But we still have more availability and we will probably do closer to $200,000 this year. So, all right. Now this is another one. This is another one of mine. This is a bigger project. Okay. This one's in Kentucky. All right. So once again, look at this nasty vegetation. I mean, I see these on properties all the time. They're in really good locations. They're just ugly. Maybe they're ugly on the outside, but they have really good bones. This property is really cool. This property is big. Okay. 10,000 square feet. It's a 9-bed, 7-bath. We had a pool. There's a pond over here. There's actually 2 ponds. You can't even see the one over here and there. We did Frisbee okay, you can see it right here. There's 2 hot tubs, mini putt-putt, fire pit, all this cool stuff. There's a theater room, sauna, gym, a huge game room in the 3-car garage, all kinds of amenities. It's like a mini resort. Okay. The thing is, and we have the heated pool now. So, what we're looking for is stuff like this that other people are like, oh, that doesn't look off. That looks disgusting. That's not going to make any money. Turning it into something like this that looks like almost like a paradise, and then marketing on as a short-term rental and making, this property will gross $300,000 this year. Okay. Now net, if you're like, oh, well, how much is that going to net, Kenny? $150,000. Okay. So we're looking for these types of deals. Now, for some of you who are like, Kenny, I can only buy the $250,000 house. I totally get it. Okay. It's the same concept. There's a ton of these crappy houses that are $250,000. And I don't say crappy because they're crappy, but they just look bad. They're marketed incorrectly. Okay. And maybe it's the vegetation. Maybe it's just the outside of the home. Maybe it's something on the inside, or they didn't take good pictures, or, you guys have seen those pictures. Like the realtor literally took their phone and they smeared their fingerprints, and it's just and they took pictures of it and listed it. Those happen all the time. That's the stuff that we're looking for in the right locations with, unique attributes about the property that we can turn into, keyword turn into. Okay. So I want to be very clear is we don't just take turnkey properties all of these properties. They weren't like this before. It was literally just the house, right? It was literally just this. Okay. And the deck was really bad, but you turn it into things that make it special and set it apart. That's how you get the best deal possible. Okay. Last one I want to show you. This is one of our other clients' properties. So this one was this is up in New York, near Hunter, New York. And this is what I'm talking about. Look at these photos. So you can see what he bought it for. He bought it for $685. So this isn't $1 million property. Okay. So he bought it for $685. It's a newer looking cabin. I think it was built in 2007. But look at these photos. I mean, look how pixelated this thing is. Okay. Look at this crap. Look how bad this is. I mean, look at that. That's what the realtor listed as the property for sale. No wonder it was sitting on the market for so long. Okay. So you take something like this and then you turn it into something like this. Okay. Now you have to invest into the property. All right. And this guy spent about $200,000 into it to turn it into this, obviously higher purchase price and higher, amount that he needed to play with, due to the property. But look at what he did with it. Look how cool it looks. Okay. With the right amenities, with the right updates to the property. It's really, really nice. And in his first month, he took in $75,000 in bookings. Okay. He's already on pace to do almost 170 on a 685 purchase. Okay. This is incredible stuff. Okay. And he only put 200K into the property. Now I know only 200K for some of us, that's a lot of money, but we can scale down. It's fine. You can scale down in these types of things and you can get ways to offset some of those costs to do the value add, but it's about the vision. Okay. Does everyone, we got a couple questions. Does that make sense to everybody? Like, let me know in the chat, yes, that makes sense, Kenny, or no, it doesn't. Let me know if what I'm talking about, this value add and looking for properties that we can take from that look like crap or they have crappy pictures and turning them into something awesome. Does this make sense? Okay. Let's see here. Yes, Kenny. Okay, thank you. Just let me know. And if it doesn't, speak up because I can help you. Okay. Let's keep moving. Great. Everyone's saying yes. Okay. I don't know why that's like that, but whatever. Maybe I'll hit refresh. There we go. Okay. I don't know why the arrows weren't working, but let's talk about this moat factor. Now, it's not just about buying crappy properties in making and turning them into, the diamond in the rough, right? Like that idea. It's not just about buying anything that looks like crap. It needs to be something special. Okay. The potential to be special. Now, what does that mean? It can mean a lot of things. So for example, let's back up a little bit. Okay. Let's go. Well, nope, I'm at the other ones. We can go through every single one of them, but we'll start from the beginning. So, this property, okay, it was, I need to provide a before picture, but it was just this white house, none of this stuff, none of it whatsoever, but it was waterfront on this really cool, pond lake near Asheville, North Carolina. Okay. What's your moat? Well, there's not a lot of waterfront in Asheville, North Carolina. So there's your moat, right? This property here, you can't see it, but it's got really cool views. And it also has 2 full kitchens in it for some reason, where it almost makes it like 2 separate suites. And it's in a really good location. And that you'll see location starts to tie into a lot of these. Okay. But once again, because of maybe some of the condition it was in, the layout was different, maybe the neighborhood, other factors, people just weren't interested in this one. So we come in, we scoop it up, and we turn it into the right thing and highlight the things that drive the revenue. Let's talk about this one. This property was 10 minutes. So this is on the Bourbon Trail in Kentucky. This was 10 minutes from one of the more popular distilleries called Buffalo Trace, 10 minutes away. Okay. And there's Lexington and Louisville's only 45 minutes away. And besides the price that made this property really attractive, it's got a pool, it's got a hot tub, which we, replaced, but land, we had water. So there's a pond over here that we put fish in and you can go kayaking, canoeing. And there's just so much stuff you can do. No one else can do all of those things on a property of this size at this price point. You see, it's like stack, 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 right? It's not just, we updated a really cool property and listed on Airbnb. It's in the right location. It has the right amenities. It has really cool features on the property as well. And so it just all continues. We can go back to the example here. I'm going to exit out. So like this one, for example, so half a mile away from the ski mountain called Hunter, New York. Okay. So if you go within a mile, most of the properties in this area are $1 million plus. Okay. And they don't have as much land as something like this does. So it's just like all these different variables you stack that allow you to have an incredible property or incredible deal. And so this is really important when you're understanding where do the moat, find properties that can help separate you from everyone else, but you can add things too. All right. Last little bit before I start going to the actual finding strategies. Now, the 20% rule, I want everyone to like memorize this. And this is really helpful for you, especially when you're trying to determine your budget. 20% of your purchase price should go towards your design, decor, and amenities. Okay. So when I say that, I mean that, so let's talk about this. So when I buy a property, let's say I bought a property for $500,000. Okay. If I follow the 20% rule, that means I should expect to spend at least $100,000 into design, decor, and amenities. That's a lot of money. $100,000 on top of a down payment and closing costs. So in reality, I'm probably spending $160,000 to $175,000 on a $500,000 home. If you don't have that kind of money, you need to lower your budget, right? So now if you're like, well, I don't even have $100,000, there are ways that you can get, which we're going to talk about at the end, where you can get more capital. That's not your capital. And I'm not saying borrowing it from your grandma or your mom. There's seller credits and concessions, which we're going to talk about, to help get you more capital. But understand, you have to invest into the property. You have to have the right capital. This 20% rule is very conservative. It doesn't apply to every single property. But if you keep this in mind as you invest, you will turn a $500,000 home into one of the best properties in that market. Okay. You want to be the strategies I'm going to share with you guys are how I find top 1% properties. And when I say top 1%, I mean the top 1% properties in performance in a market. I'm not looking for average properties. Okay. If you want to go find an average property, you can hop off this right now. I will give you some realtor numbers and I will go talk to these realtors. Okay. And I no offense if you're a realtor, listen to this. I'm not saying like you don't know how to find deals, but the reality is that's what they're really good at, is finding average properties and sending them to people. We're talking about the top 1%. Okay. That's what's going to make you successful. If you want to net 50K, 100K, 150K on a property profit, okay, that's what net is, profit, your cash flow at the end of the year, you're going to have to look for properties that you make money on the buy and you invest into those properties. And you have to be willing to do this 20% rule. Okay. There are 3 types of setup cost or startup cost when you're doing this. You have interior design, decor, and furnishings. You have amenities. You have to invest in amenities. And then finally, and this is the questionable one, are your renovations. Okay. So when I'm looking to budget on a property, this is in my experience, you've seen some of the big ones I've done. I usually spend, and this kind of covers a whole house, but this is just a rough rule of thumb. I usually spend about $15,000 to $20,000 per bedroom on the interior design and decor. Okay. So that means like your beds, your furnishings. This would also include living rooms and kitchens and dens and other gathering spaces. Okay. So it's kind of all inclusive. So if I had a 3-bedroom, I would spend anywhere from, $45,000 to $60,000 in design fees. Throw that in there, your design and decor and furnishings. Okay. At least. Now, obviously, the bigger the property, the more expensive it's going to be. Our 7, 8, 9 bedrooms. So I've got a 5-bedroom, I have 2 5-bedrooms, a 7-bedroom, and a 9-bedroom property. And this rule applies every single one of them. And we've hired it out every single time because we don't have the time to go and do it ourselves. Now, if you have the time to do it yourselves, maybe this is 10 to 15 instead of 15 to 20. But when you're involving other services to do this stuff for you, this is what it's going to be. Okay. And this is going to get you a really, really nice property on the inside with your furnishings. Next, amenities. Now, this one is variable. Okay. Now, if you're buying a $250,000 home, please don't go spend $100,000 on amenities. Like, don't do that. That's stupid. Okay. Because amenities don't, besides like maybe swimming pools, they don't really improve the value of your property. And so you have to be careful with these, but you do have to invest in amenities if you want a highly successful short-term rental. So my rule of thumb for my bigger properties, I usually spend about $100,000 to $200,000 on amenities. But if I was going to invest in a $250,000 to maybe $500,000 home, okay, which is probably, I'm looking at maybe a 2 to a 4-bedroom, I'm probably going to spend I should expect to spend anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 on amenities. What type of amenities? Hot tubs, maybe saunas, your game room, right? Like adding the right games in there and not just, oh, cool, we put the little Wayfair arcade machines in there. That no longer works, okay? And when I say no longer works, I just mean like everybody's doing that. That's really easy to do. That's nothing special. So what types of amenities can help separate you from the crowd? I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I want to highlight, I knew I was going to go rogue in my thing, but I want to highlight this amenity thing real quick. Let me pull up my listing here, and I want to show you this Kentucky property because I think this is really important. Let's do view. So this is our property. I want to show you something really cool that we did that's unique, but it's like a common amenity, if I can find it. Here it is. So we took a mini putt-putt course, okay? Like we wanted to do a mini putt-putt because there's big golfing in the area and everything, and we made it bourbon themed. So you see how it's like there's some obstacles, but you see the barrels, and there's like a swinging barrel, and then there's like horses, and like that. Like so, it's a bourbon trail themed or Kentucky themed mini putt-putt course, right? And so everybody else has, not everybody, but the top performers, they have little mini putt-putt, but they don't have a Kentucky themed mini putt-putt. And so it's that one extra step with the current amenities that you have that will help separate you from the pack. No, you don't need 2 hot tubs, the fire pit, the putt-putt, the pool, the heated pool, the pond, 2 ponds, the frisbee golf, the putting green, which you can't even see in this, the game room with a golf simulator, the theater room, the yoga studio, the gym, the poker table, the pool table. You don't need all of those things to be successful with a short-term rental. But what you can do is purchase amenities and then find ways to market them better in unique ways, right? One of the things I see people make, one of my business partners, I had to teach him is he was like, okay, cool. We're going to put an arcade machine in. How about we buy an arcade machine that has like 1,000 different games in it? And I was like, you could, but I think that's a waste of money. And he's like, well, if you're trying to buy all these games, why wouldn't you just do it all in one? Because you can't market that. You're in this is a marketing job. You're marketing a property. And so I'm focusing on arcade games as the example, but you can see it with the mini putt-putt. Okay. And you can see it like if I go back to the pond itself too, like we didn't just, oh, cool, we have a pond, but you can actually go and like kayak and paddleboard and do stuff on it, right? That looks way more attractive for someone to like, oh, wow, you can do stuff at that pond. It's not just they have a pond, figure it out. And so it's really important. So when I told the guy about the arcade machines, my point being, I was like, no, I would rather you, for the price of what you were going to pay for the one, I'd rather you buy 3 individual arcade machines that only do 1 or a few games and really highlight that, so they stand out. That looks much cooler than just one arcade machine that does every single game under the sun. So think about like your marketing. So this is how we're like the vision, it goes back to the vision. Okay. Let's keep moving. So let's jump into, I need to finish this one. So amenities, this one's a little bit, it can vary based on your budget. Don't think you have to do 100,000, but I just told you some ranges. Renovations. This is the big mystery piece. This one, I unfortunately cannot tell you specifically what you should expect to pay in renovations. Okay. It's not like every property is dependent, right? So it depends on your budget. Okay. So let's say I want to buy $1 million property, or I want to be in the range of $1 million. Okay. And I'm using $1 million because it's just simple math. You can scale this down. It doesn't matter. It's the concept. Okay. Simple math, $1 million property. I have, let's say, $300,000 for everything: down payment, closing costs, renovations, amenities, design, decor. Well, according to my 20% rule, I have to have at least $200,000 for the design, decor, amenities, potentially renovations, right? And then also have to have a down payment. So I'm looking at $200,000 for that. Plus, I only have $100,000 left. So I'm really only going to do maybe a 10% down loan, right? That's the only way it's going to work out if I'm going to follow my rules. Okay. If that's the case, I'm really tight with that $300K. So really, I don't have a lot to spend on major renovations. I can't do a major renovation if I'm going to invest in furnishings and amenities, unless I do a type of reno project where the ARV, or the after repair value of the property, maybe the property is worth 1.5 or 1.6 when I'm done with it. But let's be honest, I hate doing renovations. I hate working with contractors. Personally, I hate it. I do it all the time. It's just not something I look forward to. Okay. I'm not saying all contractors are bad. It's just not that fun for me personally with my investments. So what do I look for? I look for properties that the interior is relatively renovated, where maybe we replace flooring or lighting. And I've found that when I am able to like do that only, I have more to invest into these things, and I can focus on the things that matter most to me, which is making the property look cool. Okay. Updating the property is like kind of required, right? We need updated properties, but renovating them can be expensive, and it can also eat into your budget. So if you're limited on your capital, then you can't look for properties that need massive renovations. Maybe they need other things. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like, what are other things we can do? There's trade-offs, right? So when you understand your budget and what you can work with and your purchasing power, that's going to help beyond just like what you get pre-approved for. That will help you get a clear vision of what you need to purchase. When you have a clear vision, it's easier to spot deals. Okay. That's how it works. That's the secret sauce. All right. Let's keep moving. Okay. So let's dive into my first strategy, which I called, I'm going to take a drink break. First off, does anyone have any questions? Let me know in the chat if you have any questions. It's been kind of quiet in the chat. Okay. I don't see any questions so far. So let's keep moving. So let's talk about defining the market. Let me ask you guys this. I do want you to respond in the chat right now to make sure you are participating. Who determines your competition? So when you launch a short-term rental property, who determines your competition in a market? Put in the chat your response. This is like a poll or whatever. Who determines your competition based on the market you're in? Who determines that competition? I'm going to answer a question, and then I want to see what people are putting for the chat. Be brave. Put an answer. What do you think? Who do you think it is? There are 68 people on this right now. I don't want 68 responses, but give me some responses, guys. Who determines your competition when you launch a short-term rental property? Okay, let me know. Andrew Keller said the 20% rule is great for furnishing everything. Do we have X% for holding costs as well? That's a great question. So Andrew, that's one that's going to be dependent as well, right? So it's going to be dependent on the type of project you're doing. If I told you, oh yeah, you should expect to hold, 5% for holding costs, but the project is a 6-month project, it's probably not right. 5% would be a lot too. So it's really going to be as you're purchasing the property deal by deal basis in terms of what your holding costs are going to be in terms of your timeline for launch. If you don't have renovations, okay, and you're just doing interior design, decor, and amenities, you're probably looking at max a 3-month project. You should be at max a 3-month project. But if you're doing a whole lot of work and you're doing all these other things, it could be a 4 to 6 month project. So understanding what you have to do to the individual property and getting the timeline from like the designer and the setup team will help you know what your holding costs are. Okay, so let's go through some people answered the question, who determines your competition, by asking the location. Someone said a prospective renter. No one determines your competition. You do, the people who are in your area, the owner. I do. So Damien determines your competition. Remember that, everybody. Just kidding. The properties in your market determine your competition. Okay. I determine my competition by what I do to the property, how I design it, amenities, bedroom count, location, surrounding properties with great reviews and similar bedroom count, amenities, etc. I hate to break this to everybody. You are all wrong. You're wrong. That's not who determines your competition. You don't control who your competition is. Okay. Sure. You can list a really cool 4-bedroom with a pool, hot tub, 3 hot tubs, even, all these cool amenities, pickleball court, whatever you want, but you don't determine who your competition is. You know who does? Where you list your property, Airbnb or VRBO or wherever you list your property. Okay. So let me show you this, because it doesn't matter based on bedroom count. So I'm going to pick on Asheville. I always pick on that market. I'm familiar with it, so I do it. It's just really easy. It's got a good example. Regulation. Someone said regulations. Maybe, but it doesn't matter. So if I type in a market, let's put ourselves in the guest experience. I'm going into Airbnb.com. I'm planning a trip to Asheville, North Carolina. Maybe I put in dates. Maybe I don't. We're not going to put in dates to kind of prove my point here. And then I put in guest count. I'm not putting in any other filters right now. I can, but that's after I do an initial search, right? So I don't even put bedroom counts. This is interesting. So maybe maybe there's 8 people in my group and I'm searching in Asheville, North Carolina. This is what guests do. So, hey, there's our property. Airbnb is showing you properties that might fit based on what I put here. Now I can go in and put filters and I can do all this stuff here. Oh, I want it pet friendly. I want a hot tub. I want a washer and dryer. I want like these things. But the reality is Airbnb is defining who your competition, or when I say your competition, the STR properties competition, based on the criteria the guest puts in. It has nothing to do with the amenities that you offer unless they go and check the boxes of the amenities. But even then, it's not really about the exact like for like amenities. Even further, it's not even based on bedroom count, right? So like, let's look at this. So that's actually one of our clients. That's a 4-bedroom. This is my property. It's a 5-bedroom. That's another one of my clients. That's a 4-bedroom. I think this one's a 4-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 4-bedroom. We're seeing a lot of 4-bedrooms, but it's 4s and 5s, right? Maybe there's more. This is a 7-bedroom. So it's not even a like for like. So STR Insights, AirDNA, yourself, Price Labs, we're not truly defining who your true competition is. It's wherever you list your property. Why is this important? Why am I trying to make a point here? The point, oh yeah, that is your mom, Andrew. So everybody, Andrew Keller is a photographer in the short-term rental space. If you're looking for one of the best photographers in the short-term rental space, then you need to reach out to Andrew Keller. He goes around and his mom goes with him too. And they set up and stage and do some things. And anyway, sometimes they're in the photos and that's his mom. So that's funny. Anyway, so good stuff. Shout out to Andrew Keller's mom. Good stuff. So, but here's the thing. This is the lesson I want you to take away. So obviously your competition is a lot more than you probably thought. But number 2, the market boundaries. Okay. So when I'm looking, what I mean by this is that my market is defined not by what I think it is, not by the boundaries. Like if I go into STR Insights, so let me show you guys this real quick, okay? If I go into STR Insights and I type in market profile and I'm like, hey, I want to buy in Asheville, North Carolina. Okay, STR Insights is going to define the data for Asheville, North Carolina. Is it going to update? There we go. By these cute little red boundaries. They're not really that cute, but they're zip codes. Okay, it's based on zip codes. But when I go into Airbnb and I go into VRBO, is it defined by the same red boundaries? No. And if that's who's really determining my competition, maybe I need to search for deals. If I'm looking for deals, which is what we're talking about here, maybe I need to search based off of that, right? Like maybe I need to be searching in Leicester or Candler. And by the way, I think it's something funny to point out here. Look how Airbnb, this is not how you spell Asheville. That's a typo, but they did it for every single one of their listings. But maybe I need to look in these different markets. You know, a lot of these are actually in Asheville, which is good, but Fairview. Okay, so this is really the Asheville market. Okay, so when you're looking for deals, you need to define the markets appropriately. How do you do that? Exactly how we just did the Asheville market. We go into the places where we're going to list our property, which would be Airbnb or VRBO, and we clearly defined the market boundaries based on how they present the properties. This will help us know who our competition is and, more importantly, where to look for potential deals. Because look at this, if Airbnb is showing a bunch of properties in Leicester or Candler, that means that those are fair game to look for deals. And let me let you in on a little secret about this market. properties in downtown Asheville are going to be considerably more expensive than properties in Candler and properties in Leicester. But if they're on the same page one of Airbnb, why do you have to be in downtown Asheville? You don't. Okay. So all the investors who are interested, the 90% is what I call them, who are interested in Asheville aren't studying the Asheville region. They're studying the city itself. They're only looking at what these data providers or maybe even realtors or other people are telling them. But none of those people are determining true competition and what defines the true market boundaries. So when you understand the market boundaries, you'll understand where you can look for opportunities, which will expand your, where you should be looking for deals. Does that make sense? Let me know a yes or no to that. Tim, while you're letting me know that, Tim Pham said, STR Insights is new to me. How does it compare to AirDNA, Airbitics? How reliable can you really get with these tools? That's a loaded question. So there's a lot of similarities, Tim, or Tyler, my bad. Sorry, Tyler. There's a lot of similarities to STR Insights and AirDNA. I'm not super familiar with Airbitics, but it's all like relatively the same. It's data, right? You can see revenue, you can see markets, you can see ADR, occupancy, all this good stuff. It is a helpful guide. It is not the Bible. It's not, this is how much exactly these properties are making, but it is a helpful guide, just like AirDNA, just like Airbitics, just like DataRabu or Price Labs, to understanding what revenue potential will be. So just another tool out there. We have made STR Insights free to use on your evaluating tool, which we'll use in a second. So you can use that. The market finding tool is not free, but the evaluating one here, it's called Property Analyzer, is free. So, okay, cool. Let's keep going. Let's talk about buy boxes, because I have 10 minutes. All right. Remember, we talked about buy boxes are what specifically you're looking for in a market. Let's just do an example because it's going to be faster and I can start going through this. So buy boxes. Number one, when we're looking for deals in markets, we don't want to be the first one in a market to try something. Like, we don't want to be, I'm going to go into this market and I'm going to add a bunch of design decor, a bunch of amenities, all the things that Kenny just told me to do, and no one else has done it. I think that's incredibly risky because you're assuming what the top end revenue is. You don't actually know if it can do that. Okay. So I always look for markets that have at least one or two properties that are doing really well and look and see why they're doing really well. That's essentially identifying the buy boxes, right? So I don't look for markets that have 100 properties doing really well, because that's competitive and borderline saturated. So I am really looking for opportunities where there's a couple properties already doing well, but not a bajillion, okay, or thousands. And I say really well, I'm looking for a revenue target, and it depends on what your purchase price budget is, but that's what I'm looking for when I'm, identifying potential markets. Now that you have those markets, then you need to start looking at these buy boxes, meaning what works in those markets beyond just having views or being on the water or walking distance. So what makes them successful? So somebody give me a live example. We'll take it down together. Give me a market, maybe a market you're interested in. I don't care if it's the middle of nowhere, Kansas. Preferably don't do the middle of nowhere, Kansas, but let's just take a random market that somebody's interested in. Put it in the chat right now. You have like 10 seconds. Put a market and I'll take it and show you guys how to do buy boxes. Well, not just buy boxes, the buy box strategy. Hilton Head, done. Panama City Beach, Western PA. Interesting, Western PA. That's a big region though. In San Antonio. Let's do Hilton Head. I know Hilton Head, kind of. All right. So what I like to do is first, I'm going to show you guys exactly how I do this. This works in any of the markets you just listed, and you can copy this. So go into Zillow. You're going to type in Hilton Head or whatever market. Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. Okay. I have some filters on here. I'm just going to go reset everything because it doesn't matter. And this is what I do first. This is really important I don't just go in and I throw in my budget. I'd go in here and I study the market first. Okay. So let's do Hilton Head. Now, I usually like to go to the center of whatever that market is. And remember, I probably need to go into Airbnb and see what the Hilton Head boundaries truly are. But Hilton Head is an island, so it's going to be pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to go to the middle of Hilton Head, and let's assume I don't know anything about Hilton Head. Okay, I don't know what the regulations are. I don't know. There's a ton of HOAs, and they're very strict, and you can only STR in certain parts of the island. I do know these things. That's why I'm saying them, but let's pretend I don't. All right, so I'm going to grab an address. And I want to understand from a revenue standpoint, where are the top performers and why they're the top performers. Okay, so let's go here. And what I want to do is now, so I have a random address. Now I'm going to go back to Zillow. Okay, and I'm going to go and I'm going to look at my price point. I'm going to look at my budget. I should know by now, based on everything I told you guys, what I can afford. So let's say I can afford up to, I'm going to say, it's Hilton Head, so it's gonna be a little expensive. This is a beach market. Let's say 700. Hopefully I don't just get condos. Okay, I got houses here. Great. All right, 700. So 700. Now what I want to do is I want to go up here and I'm going to select sort, and I'm going to select by bedrooms. This is going to tell me the max bedroom count I can afford. Now you're going to need to use your brain here. Okay, there's one 5-bedroom within my budget. Does that mean I can afford 5 bedrooms in Hilton Head as short-term rentals? Probably not. There's only one, and it doesn't really look like it would be a short-term rental. Okay. So there's a little bit of subjectiveness to this, but just use your brain and you'll know. So I can scroll through here and I can obviously see a lot of, 4 bedrooms. So it looks like maybe 4s. So now what I can do is go into STR Insights and take that address. So this is the property analyzer tool. Take that address. Remember, it doesn't matter what, I don't care about this property. I just need the center of this area. And I'm going to look at 4 bedrooms and I'm going to hit search. Okay. And I can add 3 bedrooms if I want, but I'm going to mainly target 4s for right now. So what it's going to show me when I hit search is it's going to give me this cute little radius. And it's going to show me properties and it's going to sort them based on their revenue. Okay, so you see a property doing 256,000, 125, and so on. Awesome. I mean, if I could do 256,000 on a 700 purchase price budget, you bet your boxers I'm going to go be telling everybody about that one, right? But I don't want you to stop here. Remember, you don't understand your market. You're not at your market boundaries yet. What I want you to do is expand your market, get this radius to cover your entire market. So let's go up to 6 miles. Okay. So within 6 miles, now I have 126 comps and I have a property doing 326 and 272 and 253. So I have a lot more properties that are doing over $200,000. And I can see, number one, where they're located by hovering over the dots. There we go. And number 2, I can click into these properties and see what makes them special. Okay. So we're always going to look for location. So what makes these properties special? Where are they located? And I mean, let's be, the super obvious, they're probably beachfront, right? So we can click into these properties. I'm just going to click a couple random ones. Okay. And I'm looking at their attributes. So let's go back up. Let's click like the one that's like 326 and the one that's 372 and just take a look at some of these properties. Okay. So let's go over, we'll just start here. Okay. We're not going to get into the semantics of the data and all this other stuff, but the reality is, like, what attributes, let's do this quick and dirty. What attributes does this property have? Look at everything: the pictures, the amenities, the quality of the property, the location, the reviews, the guest count, the bathroom count, everything. So we have a 4-bed, 3-bath, pet friendly. It's got a pool. It looks like it's a house. It hosts 10 guests, 3 baths. Okay. This is really, really helpful. And I might peek down here, see if there's any standout amenities. It doesn't look like the pool's heated or anything, so that's not a big deal. I can see the interior. It looks relatively updated. Okay. It doesn't look brand new, but it looks relatively updated and it looks like a really cool property. Okay. Then I can go over here. There's another one, 4-bed, 4.5 bath that sleeps 15 guests. Remember, this was doing 276. Okay. But look at this one. Okay. It looks like it's got one of those, okay, we got a grill. We have a game room now. This is on one of those like boat dock ones. So it's not on the beach, but it's like on the backside. Looks like whoa, this is a bigger one for sure. So this is a bigger 4-bedroom. It's got a pool, a spa, obviously waterfront, a gym. You've got a lot of amenities, a massage room. Holy crap. Yeah, I mean, like, you guys connecting the dots on like amenities and space and like the bigger 4 bedrooms, right? So this is helping me know a couple of things. I need a property with a pool. It needs to be waterfront. Okay. It doesn't necessarily need to be on the beach. It can be on the backside as well. That's helpful. And it probably needs to have a lot of space, and bathrooms are probably important as well. Okay. Now, for the sake of time, I'm jumping and cutting to some of the conclusions here that we would gain by looking at all the different examples. But the reality is, you can see specifically, by just pattern recognition of the successful properties, what makes them stand out. Now that you know that, go back into Zillow and get more specific. So obviously I'm looking at houses. Okay. I'm also looking at, waterfront, and it has to have a pool. All right. Now, what I just learned in literally 5 minutes is that I can't afford those type of properties. Okay. So now we go back, we start over again. Okay. So let's remove these filters we just put in. And we go down and we target 3 bedrooms, and we repeat the same exercise in STR Insights. Oops. Oh, wait, what am I? Sorry. Go into STR Insights and we go down to 3 bedrooms, and we rinse and repeat until we see properties in Zillow, that match the criteria that we're looking for. Okay. If they match, they're potential deals because we already know what the revenue potential is in that market. Now, my recommendation for you is to do this in at least 3 to 5 different markets. If so Jillian, if you are obsessed with Hilton Head, you only want to be in Hilton Head, then you're going to be looking for a while. I don't know what your budget is. Hopefully it's more than 700,000, but if it's not, like, you're probably buying a condo or a townhome, and it's going to be tough. But obviously with inventory and what's available, it's going to be tough here. So by applying these simple rules, go down to the 3 bedrooms, go down to the 2 bedrooms, and see if there's opportunities there. I mean, still, like, a 3 bedroom at 700,000, if that could do 150, that's a great deal. That's a great opportunity. It doesn't need to be doing $276,000. So figure out what you can afford, what makes sense, the comps in the area that are successful and what makes them successful. And that will help you find opportunities. 2 million. Yeah. Then you do want them to be doing, so you probably can afford, let's up this then. So, and by the way, I would probably do 2.25. So you have a little bit of a buffer too. You don't have to do exactly at your budget, just a tip. So you're looking at, you definitely do like a 5 or 6 bedroom there. So, and then let's see what we got for waterfront and things. So waterfront, pool. Okay. There's 3 properties for sale. So it's a tough market, or 2 properties for sale, excuse me. So it's a tough market. And I mean, it's not even like, it says 3 bedroom, it's probably like a 4, but 110 days, breathtaking deep water. Be careful with the HOAs and part of it. But does it beachfront? Can we get a boat there? Probably not. Can you legally STR? It looks like you have to do some sort of like updates on this property. Oh gosh. Yeah. So all these things I'm looking at now, does this need to be turnkey ready to go? No, not at all. But if you're going to invest, it depends on your cash on hand too, to invest in something like this. I think it's cool, but I want to see more of like, I think you need, I wouldn't say this is quote unquote desirable waterfront. So anyway, so hopefully I know Hilton Head's not the best example for everyone because it's a very specific small beach market, but understand what you can afford and know what does well in the market. And that will tell you specifically with the buy boxes, how you should be, how you should be looking and what you should be looking for. Okay. Last thing I want to point out here. Okay. Let me share a data point with you guys. So today, roughly 2 in 5 homes, sellers are giving concessions to buyers today. So you can negotiate on a lot of different things besides price. Okay. You can get money back at the close. You can work with your agents, and because you determine what your agents' commissions are, even though they try to tell you what they are, you actually sign off on what it is. You can cut their commissions down. I'm not saying that works every time. You can negotiate in furnishings. You can get inspection items. You can There's appraisal gaps. There's all kinds of ways that you can negotiate on deals and get the best deal possible. And so, going back, like for example, let's pretend that this property was a good deal. Or like we liked the property. Okay, not that it was a good deal, but we liked the property. The revenue potential is there. The property was in a good location and everything, but this property, if we look at it itself, it needs a lot of updates, right? This needs a lot of work. I would probably say at 2,800 square feet, you need a new kitchen, bathroom, furnishings, and everything. Let's say you're probably going to make it a 4-bedroom instead of a 3, plus the outdoor amenities. You're probably looking at a $200,000 to $300,000 project. So I would probably say $300,000 just with the furnishings and the updates and everything to make this a cool property. So it's a lot of money, but at this price point, and it's been sitting on the market for 110 days because it needs work. People are afraid of that work, right? Remember, I told you I was. So it needs that stuff. Now, is it heavy renovations? No, but it needs some updates. You can come in and offer maybe 100,000. So you can say, I'll give you, you know what, seller, I'll give you 1.825 million. But I want $100,000 at the closing table. Okay. And I will use that 100,000 for my renovations and stuff. Now, you can't literally take that cash yourself, but you can give it to a contractor, get it to a contractor who's doing your renovations. And so the incentive to the seller is that they get to sell their property because it's been sitting on the market for over 3 months. And, and you get to wrap up that cost into the loan of the property because it's cheaper to do it that way for you, because then you don't have to get that $100,000 cash out of your own pocket into the deal. The seller, or the price of the property, it's wrapped into that as long as the property appraises. Now, there's some other little nuances with that we could talk about. I have a whole video on my YouTube channel, by the way. We could talk about this, but the reality is this is how you work these deals to get the better deal. Now you have less cash into the deal, which is going to give you a better return on your investment. Understand these things when you're investing, because these are ways to get into properties without having as much cash as you think you need. So for those of you with $100,000, obviously you're not buying this, right? But you can take your 100,000 and turn it to 125 or even 150 pretty quickly, right? Without having to have that extra cash or borrow it from your grandma, kind of thing. So using seller credits and concessions is really, really helpful in knowing and getting less cash out of your own pocket, but getting a better deal as well. Okay. Unfortunately, guys, I do have to wrap up here because I have a hard stop right now. But I'm going to tell you guys this briefly. If you don't know, spoiler alert, I help people find deals like these. Okay. And markets all around the country. Obviously, I look in other places besides Hilton Head. And in fact, Hilton Head's really, really hard, as we just discovered. But I help people find properties. And if you want help or maybe just some direction, feel free to schedule a quick call, 15-minute call. We can sit down, discuss your needs and what you're looking for. I'm happy to share with you guys, go over some examples, tell you guys what we're looking for and based on your situation. Okay. Everything I do is one-on-one. So please schedule some time. Let's chat. It's free. Let me put the banner up real quick and give you guys some free parting resources. So obviously you've seen STR Insights. This is the link to schedule a call if you want to as well. You can scan that QR code, and I'm going to throw this in the chat as well. But obviously you guys have access to STR Insights for free. Well, some of STR Insights for free. And you can also so the property analyzer tool I just showed you, obviously Zillow is free too, Airbnb, all that good stuff. I do have some really good videos on YouTube. Check out the YouTube channel at STR Insights. And if you're not following me on Instagram, there's some really good content on Instagram as well, at Kenny_Bedwell. And then finally, check out the podcast. This is a really, really cool podcast I've been putting together for over a year now. That's got some really good content, helpful information to help you cash flow positive. That's the name of it, right? So check all this stuff out. If you're new, I encourage you to listen to the podcast or go watch the YouTube videos. They are all informative, educational. And finally, if you'd like to sit down and talk more, if you're looking for a deal and need help, or you feel stuck or analysis paralysis, you don't have time, let's talk. Okay. I can at least point you in the right direction, and it's a free conversation, so it won't hurt. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I apologize. I usually like to answer some questions here at the end. I just don't have time, unfortunately, today, but feel free to reach out. and let's have a conversation. And hopefully I will see you guys on another workshop or in the future at some point, and maybe at the STR Wealth Conference at the end of July. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll chat soon. Thanks, everybody.